What really happens when a TV family that feels so real suddenly disappears? For nearly a decade, millions of people welcomed one chaotic, loud, and strangely comforting family into their homes. Week after week, they laughed at their arguments, saw themselves in their struggles, and somehow felt like part of the same household. But behind the laughter, behind the perfectly timed jokes, and behind those unforgettable characters, there were stories most people never heard. Because not everyone who was part of that world stayed the same after it ended. Some walked away quietly, some were forced to slow down, and some left in ways no one expected. So, the real question isn't just who left, it's why. And the answers might change the way you see everything. Doris Roberts, the role that became too real. When the show finally came to an end after 9 successful seasons, it didn't feel like just another finale. It felt like saying goodbye to family. And at the center of that family was a character almost impossible to ignore, loud, loving, controlling, and unforgettable. She wasn't just a mother on screen. She felt real. And that's exactly why letting go wasn't so simple. For Doris Roberts, this wasn't just another acting job. It was a role she deeply understood. A character she didn't just play, but lived through. Marie was complicated. She could be overbearing one moment and deeply vulnerable the next. She could frustrate you and then make you laugh seconds later. And somehow, Doris made all of it feel natural. Over time, something unusual happened. The line between actress and character began to blur. Audiences didn't just see a performance, they saw her. And that kind of connection, as powerful as it is, comes with a cost. Because once you've created something that iconic, where do you go next? After the show ended, many expected to see her immediately step into another big role. But that moment never really came. Not because she couldn't, but because she wouldn't. Doris became extremely selective. She refused to take roles that felt repetitive or shallow. She didn't want to be reduced to the same stereotype over and over again. She had already proven what she could do. So instead of chasing more screen time, she chose something different. She returned to the stage, where acting felt more raw, more personal, and more meaningful. She began writing, reflecting on her journey, sharing her experiences in ways television never allowed. And she used her voice to speak about something rarely discussed, ageism in the entertainment industry. At a time when many actors slowed down, quietly she spoke louder. Not for attention, but for change. She didn't disappear. She simply chose a different path. A quieter one. A more intentional one. And when she passed away years later, it didn't just feel like losing an actress. It felt like losing someone who had been part of your home. Peter Boyle, the strength no one saw. Sometimes, the people who make us laugh the most are the ones carrying the heaviest burdens. On screen, he was sharp, sarcastic, and effortlessly funny. The kind of character who could say the most outrageous things and still somehow win you over. But off-screen, there was a completely different story unfolding. A story very few people knew at the time. As the seasons went on, some viewers noticed subtle changes. Fewer scenes. Less presence. A quieter role compared to before. It sparked questions. Had something changed? Was he stepping away? The truth was far more serious. Behind the scenes, Peter Boyle had been battling multiple health issues, and not small ones. We're talking about a heart attack, cancer, a stroke, the kind of challenges that would force most people to stop completely. But he didn't. He kept showing up. He kept performing. And he kept delivering the same level of brilliance that made his character unforgettable. Not because it was easy, but because he cared. About the work. About the people. About being part of something meaningful. To him, it wasn't just a show. It was family. Even when his health made things harder, even when it would have been completely understandable to step back, he stayed, quietly pushing through, quietly giving everything he had. And the most remarkable part? You could barely tell. That's what true professionalism looks like. That's what passion looks like. When the show finally ended, it wasn't because anyone was forced out. It ended on its own terms, strong, respected, and complete. He was there until the very last moment. But not long after, he was gone. And that's when it hit people. It wasn't just a character they lost. It was someone who had given so much without ever asking for recognition. His legacy didn't end with the show, because every time people go back and watch those moments, those lines, those perfectly delivered scenes, he's still there, exactly as they remember him. Madylin Sweeten, growing up too fast. For most kids, childhood is simple. School, friends, ordinary moments. But for some, it happens under bright lights, surrounded by cameras, with millions of people watching. From the time she was just 5 years old, Madylin Sweeten lived a life most people can't even imagine. Growing up on a hit television show sounds exciting, and in many ways it was, but it also came with pressure. A lot of pressure. Because when people see you on screen for years, they start to believe they know you. They associate you with one version of yourself. And breaking away from that isn't easy. By the time the show ended, she wasn't just a child actor anymore. She was at a crossroads. Continue chasing fame, or step back and figure out who she really was. And she chose something rare. She walked away. Not out of failure, not out of frustration, but out of self-awareness. She needed space. Space to grow. Space to live. Space to exist without expectations. Because when your identity is shaped by a character for so long, finding yourself again becomes the most important role you'll ever play. She didn't disappear forever. She came back, but on her own terms. Smaller projects, independent work, creative freedom without overwhelming pressure. It wasn't about being famous anymore. It was about being real. And in a world that constantly pushes people to stay visible, that choice takes courage. Sawyer and Sullivan Sweeten, The Hidden Cost of Fame. Some stories are harder to talk about, not because they aren't important, but because they remind us of something uncomfortable. That fame, especially at a young age, isn't always what it seems. From the outside, everything looked perfect. Two young boys, part of a beloved show, growing up in front of millions. It looked like a dream, but reality is often more complicated. They started so young that the cameras became normal. The set became home, and that kind of upbringing changes you. When the show ended, everything changed. Suddenly, the lights were gone. The structure was gone. The identity they had known for years was gone. And what replaced it? Silence. For most people, growing up is already confusing. Now, imagine doing it after living a completely different life. The transition wasn't easy. Their family made a decision to step away to protect them, to give them a chance at a normal life. And for a while, that's exactly what they did. School, privacy, distance from the spotlight. But the effects of early fame don't just disappear overnight. For Sawyer, the struggle became deeper, more personal, more difficult to escape. And in a heartbreaking turn, his life ended far too soon. It shocked everyone, not just because of what happened, but because it revealed something people don't often see. The emotional toll behind the scenes, the reality behind the laughter. His story isn't just tragic, it's a reminder that behind every perfect TV moment, there are real people navigating real challenges. And sometimes walking away isn't weakness, it's survival. Elliott never meant to stay. Some actors become part of a show, others pass through and leave a lasting impression anyway. Elliott was one of those. His character was unusual, awkward, completely unpredictable. And that's exactly why people loved him. But just as quickly as he appeared, he was gone. No drama.no conflict.no controversy. Just gone. And that left people wondering why. The answer is actually simple. He was never meant to stay. Unlike many actors who commit to long-running roles, Chris built his career differently. Always moving, always exploring, always trying something new. For him, this wasn't a destination. It was just one stop along the way. While others settled into the rhythm of the show, he was juggling multiple projects, writing, acting, creating. His time there was brief, but memorable. And sometimes that's even more powerful, because instead of becoming routine, he remained unique. Helmond, choosing life over spotlight. Not every departure is dramatic. Sometimes it's simply about knowing when to step back. By the time Catherine Helmond joined the show, she had already built an incredible career. She didn't need more recognition. She didn't need to prove anything. So when she appeared on screen, it wasn't about ambition. It was about enjoyment. But as time went on, her priorities shifted. Not because she lost interest in acting, but because she gained interest in something else. Life outside of it. She wanted to travel. To spend time with loved ones. To experience moments that don't happen on a set. And that meant making a choice. Continue the demanding schedule of television, or slow down and enjoy what she had earned. She chose the second. Her appearances became occasional, carefully chosen, intentional, and that decision wasn't met with resistance. It was respected, because sometimes success isn't about doing more. It's about knowing when you've done enough. Why this show still matters. At its core, this wasn't just a sitcom. It was something much simpler and much more powerful. It was about family. Not the perfect kind, but the real kind. The kind that argues, annoys, supports, and loves, often all at the same time. That's why people connected with it. Because they saw themselves in it. The awkward dinners, the small arguments, the everyday frustrations, it all felt familiar. And that's something not every show can achieve. It didn't rely on exaggeration. It relied on truth. And that truth made it timeless. Even years later, people still go back to it. Still laugh at the same moments. Still feel that same sense of comfort. Because while the actors moved on, while their lives changed in ways we didn't always see, what they created together stayed. And maybe that's the most powerful part of all. Some stories don't end when the screen goes black. They stay with you. Quietly. Familiar. Like family.